Hello fellow musicians, Ashlee Busch here, composer of Goddess Triquetra. In this video, I'm going to be going through the score and talking specifically about your section and how your section functions in the piece. We're going to be going through with the score on screen and I'm going to be listening along with. This is meant to give you a little bit of a heads up in the rehearsal process, insight into what I was thinking when I wrote something and how it functions together within the piece. I highly recommend that you have your part in front of you as we are going through and doing this together so that you can see specifically what parts I'm referring to. All right, let's get started. Ah yes, these tremolos in the beginning, that is so important. These tremolos are setting the tone for everything that is going to be happening afterwards. So it's so important that you take your part as though it were a solo part and that you very, very distinctly focus on the speed of those tremolos as they are rising and falling. And you focus really hard on how that speed is correlating with your volume. You may notice here that there are individual parts for every single flute player. Everyone here is a solo, and you are playing tremolos, it's true, and they're interacting with each other and they're overlapping with each other, but that fuzzy, hazy kind of atmosphere is absolutely essential to the beginning setup of the piece, 100%. When we start getting into the staccato stuff, it's really important that these staccatos are really pointed and that they have a really sharp, crisp kind of attack to them. And that really stays essential for staccatos throughout the entire piece. Something a little bit similar here. Articulation is really, really important in my work. So here, when we have that da 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 da, it's really important that there is a distinction between the tenuto note, the staccato note, and the accent, that they all have just a little bit of a different weight, and to really call attention to those differences. This part, yes, when we have those ascending groups of three, da, 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 to call attention to where there are slurs. You may notice that your pattern of how that's ascending and descending doesn't actually fit within the meter. It's a little crazy to be able to correlate all that happening at the same time. So it's really important that you're maintaining those groups as they are appearing. Da, 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 da. But that you're making sure to stay so specifically in time. The rhythm is absolutely essential in this piece. Absolutely essential. I'd be really interested to hear these long tones played with as little vibrato as possible because they're really acting as support for everything that's going on past it. And that piccolo solo is so incredibly important, because that is using the material that's going to be dictating much of the rest of the piece, that 4-note grouping. Here, very pointed, each one of those accents and staccatos. Independence of line is absolutely essential here. Flute 1 and B-flat clarinet 1 are together, flute 2 and B-flat clarinet 2 are together, and it's really important to listen across the group so that you can really hear what the other people are doing and match what they're doing. You have to be very on your toes for the entirety of the performance of this piece. You may notice that your rhythm is at odds with what's going on in the percussion, so make sure to listen down. I love the mix of the clarinet and the bowed vibraphone here. Such this strange, distinct playing with the overtone series effect. Ah, yes. The humming, here we go. So we got a solo first. Or duet. I would be interested to see how icy you can make that sound. And icy on the flute means kind of thin and not quite wavery, so not big romantic kind of vibrato, but just a little bit gentle on it. And with the singing, yes. In the humming is really, really important that you're being independent with the line. You are not supposed to be doing the same thing as the person sitting next to you. You really focus on listening because the reference pitches are given to you in other instruments, and you want to be as musical as possible with this little moment. I am less interested in that you are lining up specifically where it says in the score. You may notice in the score there are no bar lines here, that you have to make sure you are stating your humming in between distinct parts. But I'm not interested that you cut off right exactly at the same time. I'm interested in you finding this musical moment, that you're finding all these crunchy dissonances with the people around you, and that you really make that as musical as you can. Ah, yes. Here we come to the solo. This solo is a turning point in the piece. So if you're performing this solo, again, this is another one of those places where I'm less interested in how specifically you're meeting rhythms. Still play the rhythms, of course, but I'd rather have your focus be centered on thinking about what this flute solo is symbolizing. It's symbolizing Persephone's cry out from the underworld. She's been stolen, and she's in pain and terrified and in a strange place. And so it's so incredibly important that you bring across that sadness and that desperation in your playing. Being assertive in this part is absolutely essential. You may notice that your rhythms are often on off beats, and that there is emphasis happening in strange parts of the measure. You have to be certain of your rhythm here and very assertive as you're playing it. You may find that there are places you're with other instruments and then all of a sudden you're not with other instruments. There's no room for having any sort of rhythmic ambiguity here. Everything has to be spot on or the effect doesn't work. And there's another very, very pointed point for staccatos here. It's very essential. And not everybody's entering at the same time. So again, make sure you're confident, you're counting, and you're assertive in when your instrument group is going to be entering. My little nod to Back to the Future there in the brass. Also making a big difference from piano to forte here, have it travel a really long way in its dynamic range. Here's where you can get harsh in your face with that sound. These accents should be so gnarly, snarling almost, and so I'm not interested in having the best, prettiest, warmest tone here. Have it be sharp, have it be in your face. Music does not always have to be pretty. Those really clear notes when they're having those big register jumps. Being in tune is going to be essential here because these are very dissonant harmonies, and so they don't fit perfectly well together in the overtone series. And so making sure you're right in the middle of the pitch is incredibly important here. Same thing with the tremolos. These tremolos are essential, and now there's even fewer flutes playing this tremolo. So having that same really distinct sense of when you're speeding up and slowing down. For whoever is playing the solo, make sure that you note that you are with the percussion in this, so you know where you should be putting your ears. All right, wow, that goes by really fast. If you have any questions, you should have my contact information. By all means, let me know if you have them. I'd be happy to answer them, or if you want to chat about it in person, we can, chat via Zoom. All right, happy practicing.